Everyone, welcome back to Solacene. Today is a bit of a unique episode because we're currently between semesters, so we thought we'd do something a bit fun. And in keeping with that topic, or perhaps just because I forgot, I don't have a poem to start the episode. We thought we would freestyle one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start. The poem will be called Solacene, obviously. And the first line is, what puts the soul in Solacene?
Is it the people or the Pleistocene?
S is for sun. O is for orange.
L is for Alicia. A is for Aaron.
Okay, we're going to drop that experiment.
I don't think that's much of a poem.
But it kind of did introduce the theme of the episode, which is meet the hosts. Potentially 2 years late,
Yeah.
because we're 2 years into the podcast and we realized we always just kind of start talking and we never say, hey, I'm Aaron, and she never says, hey, I'm Alicia. So today we're doing that with a fun little format where we kind of quiz each other about potentially fun, interesting things, something like that.
Yes. So I'll start. First question for you, Aaron. Welcome to the show. We've always wanted to have you on, and so I have prepared some questions for you today.
Oh my.
The first one is, what's your ideal vacation location, duration, time of year, setup? Like, give me the details of your
Okay.
ideal vacation.
Vacation.
Yes, not to move, just a vacation. A
The way
holiday.
you're pronouncing that is throwing me off a bit. But we'll get into that off air, I suppose. You mean currently, like if I was to leave tomorrow? So let's say it would be somewhere sunny, because Montreal in the winter can be rather drab.
It is rather drab.
Hawaii. I've always wanted to go to Hawaii.
Ah.
I never wanted to live there. Hawaii, I would scale one of the volcanoes, look in, smell the sulfur, do something like holistic, whatever that. There would be some kind of bathing involved with the sulfurous air, and it would last 2 weeks before I think I would get kind of antsy.
Mm. Okay, and what would you be eating on the vacation?
Fish.
Fish? Okay. No, I mean, like, sometimes when you go on a vacation, it's like, well, you're just going to eat normal. But, like, are there any foods you'd want to try, I guess, as you alluded to?
Yeah, I'm not sure
Fresh or
what they
fish?
eat. I'm not sure about the Hawaiian cuisine. Potentially the sushi involved.
Yeah, poke bowls are Hawaiian.
Poke bowls, yeah.
So a lot
Maybe
of
I could
those,
finally
maybe.
learn to love those. Fun fact about the poke bowls, because this episode is all about fun anecdotes. One time I tried to cook one.
Yes.
Yeah.
You bought one from the store, you mean?
Yes.
So it had, like, the raw fish and everything in it, and then
Right.
you brought it home and tried to cook it.
Yeah, thinking it would just be like a fish bowl.
Yeah.
Anyway, your first question is, who is your Solacene life coach? Solacene meaning like a stand-in for your ideal life coach or personal trainer, motivator, anyone in the world, even let's say anyone through history, you could have motivating you or, I don't know, training you.
I
Who you could
believe,
apprentice from.
at the moment, someone that I really look up to and find a very Solacene person is Krista Tippett, who is the NPR/Pushkin Industries podcast host. And she has done a radio show for over 10 years. This is her 11th year. And it's called On Being. And then now it's a podcast and a radio show. So, like, as we had the episode about radio last week, think that it's a very Solacene technology and endeavor. And this woman's really neat because she is an incredible conversationalist, and that's something I aspire to be just in day-to-day life, because I think conversations can really change someone's experience. Like, if you go to a cafe with someone and it's like a bad conversation, it's like, that was a waste of time for everyone. Or you just go away very neutral. But if it was a really great conversation and you can ask really good questions to facilitate that, then it's like life-giving instead of just coffee-giving.
Sure.
So I learned a lot from her in terms of how to phrase questions, but also her life work is very inspiring. Like, she's not just a podcast host or a radio show host. She's a mother. She's a professor. She has really good connections and community that she's built through the show. So I'll say she's my Solacene person because she She's always tries to incorporate spiritual, the natural, and like the physical all together in her questions. Like the first question she asks when they come on the show is, how did your childhood influence your spiritual beliefs? Which is like the heaviest question you probably could ask someone, because often that unpacks a lot of baggage. But she just goes there right off the bat, and I love it. So,
Sounded
Krista,
mildly like you were answering a job interview question, but I'll allow it.
your Solacene media trifecta. So,
What is
an
it?
album, a movie, and a book that are either A, your favorite, or B, the most Solacene. So you can pick and choose if you want to do your 3 favorites or your 3 like Solacene recommends.
I'll do my favorites, I guess, because we talk about Solacene recommends all the time.
It's true.
So for a movie, the first one that comes to mind, Porco Rosso.
Okay.
Of course, we have actually extolled Studio Ghibli a lot on the podcast, but not so much this one, maybe because it's a little bit fantastical and touches with themes of fascism and masculinity that I don't think Solacene is so often discussing.
Yeah.
But it's a 90s animated movie about a pig pilot above the Adriatic Sea pilot, should I say, and his adventures, and particularly his romance with the local woman who runs the hotel.
Mm-hmm. So really you want to be the pig.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mention that, but he's one of my style icons, and he just has a great personality. Great hair.
Yeah.
Great shape to him. So yeah, Porco Rosso. And what was the other? For a book, I would say, I guess I'll just recommend the one I'm reading right now, which is Tale of Genji Monogatari.
It sounds like a really great book.
It's a Japanese novel from the 11th century, I think.
You're reading in the original Japanese, I assume?
No, I'm not. I feel like I sometimes feel guilt about reading translated things from, let's say, our alphabet. Like if it's an Italian book or a German book or a French book.
Yeah.
But if it's in a different script, I feel like that is excusable.
Okay, that's
Like
understandable,
that.
yeah.
It has a very neat aesthetic to it. It's hard to describe beyond that. And for an album...
Shrugs. You don't
Shrugs.
know?
Yeah, what's that record that we have with the classical music on?
We have the Pfizer waiting room.
Yeah, with the Pfizer PFI-ZER, famously known from their vaccine.
Yeah.
We have, for some reason, one of their waiting room classical music compilations on vinyl. So
Yeah.
I'll go for that.
It's honestly a good compilation. It's like epic, but also...
Yeah, no, it's a good mix. The only problem is that the ending, it has like that disclaimer like we'd hear at the end of a commercial for an experimental drug.
That's exactly what it is. It's like Pfizer, whatever it is. It's like, I think it's a mood. Anyway, it's one of the strangest things I've ever purchased.
Yeah.
But it has good music on it, so
Sure.
c'est la vie.
You said for me that you have 2 silly ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with your first silly one,
Okay.
which is to invent some slang / random exclamation words. Potentially they can be canonical, like we use them on the podcast in the future.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
The first one that comes to mind is butter. I'm used to say butterfingers as an
Just-
exclamation.
Angry.
Butterfingers.
Okay.
Because it's kind of, well,
When you drop something.
when you drop something, but then it can then leak into when you do something silly in the future. It's like, you mess up, you're like, oh, butter. Because it's just like, you've been slippery.
Yeah,
unintentionally
sure.
slippery. So I'm going to go with
Greasy.
butter. It could be used for a slip of the tongue.
Ah,
perhaps.
So butter.
Oh, butter.
Buttery slip.
Yeah.
Freudian butter.
Freudian butter. So we're going to go with butter. And then maybe let's think of another one for when you're, for like calling someone out. Calling someone a name.
So you're calling like you.
You. Crunchy leaf. I don't know.
Crunchy leaf.
You. Like, what's
I
something
was trying to think
unpleasant?
of something like Solacini. Like we have steam chariots for cars.
Yeah.
Something to characterize the epoch.
Oh, so not just slang for like when you're mad or messed up.
No, but something from when you're mad, but that would be in the Solacene.
Yeah.
There's no swearing in Solacene. That's
Of course.
obvious.
So what would it be?
Like in French, the old-fashioned term is zut. So we have butter for that.
Yeah, butter is zut. And then zut alors.
Yeah.
And maybe in the Solacene it could be something that's like doesn't happen anymore. So like sting chariots, but it could be
That's what I mean.
UCO2 or something like that.
CO2, okay.
Carbon,
Sure. What about something like technological?
greenhouse gas.
Or is it, touchscreen?
Honestly, I kind of like that.
Touchscreen.
You have to home button.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know.
Think about it. Maybe we'll get back to it at the end of the episode.
Okay.
Because it kind of plays into another question, so you have to have some in mind.
Oh no.
Anyway, you'll have to ask me.
Okay, I'm gonna skip the next one because it's a bit too deep. Next, but I'll go to this. Would you rather never be allowed to bike or never be allowed to go on a train again?
Definitely never be allowed.
Hmm.
Ooh. I was gonna say definitely never be allowed to bike because trains will take you so much distance.
Yeah.
But I also like the exercise of bikes, and it probably includes those gym bicycles,
Yeah.
which I think are kind of cool.
Yeah.
But the trains is like no alternative to.
That's what I was thinking. I was
Long
like, you can
distance.
technically always walk bike distances for the most part. But
I guess I'll go never bike.
okay, I think I would go never train,
Hmm.
which I don't know what that would leave me with in the
You
Solacene.
want to live in Japan though?
Yeah, I
You can
know.
drive around.
And I've still never really been on a super high speed rail. I've been on like 200-kilometer-an-hour ones, but never 300, and that's kind of the dream. So I don't know if I could actually.
Well, I
answer
get around
this.
well without biking now, so I'll say that.
That's true. That's true. So yeah, I'll go with bike as well. But I love biking so much, so it's a challenge.
You won't ask the question, but I can see now that you've come up with questions that you just want to talk about.
No, I
yourself.
haven't. That was the only one that I was still stewing over. I kind of answered them mentally. So
Okay.
ask me something.
If you were a teacher, which age group would you prefer and why?
Ooh,
You
that's
being a
good
teacher,
question.
wasn't that an aspiration for a while?
No, I never wanted to be a
Just
teacher.
invented that.
Yeah, you did.
Seemed very teacherly.
I know. Everyone probably thinks I am a teacher because I'm always like, yeah, I
Yeah.
work with kids.
Student teacher, of course.
Student teacher. Yeah, I would never graduate to a full teacher. I think I would like to teach 11th and 12th grade.
High schoolers.
Yeah, younger kids, I like working with them a lot, but I'm highly sensitive. And so because you're in a room of like 30 people coming from all different backgrounds, and they don't
Mhm.
really have the language to explain perhaps they're having struggles at home or they're having struggles just like interpersonally. And it'd be nice to be able to help them acquire those skills, but it really would take too much of a toll on me, I think, in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the cool thing with 11th and 12th graders is that they've kind of acquired those skills where you can really help them fine-tune their interpersonal skills, but they're also then have interests and passions. The way that young kids are a bit more, you have to just introduce them to stuff. So, I mean, my favorite teacher ever was a high school teacher, so that's probably also why I...
Yeah, I feel like high schoolers, 11th and 12th grade specifically, since they're on the cusp of graduating,
Yeah.
they are more receptive.
hmm
And also in like movies, it's always the mentor is like an English teacher in 12th grade.
That's what I was
So I think
thinking.
that's what you could be. You could kind of be that cool one, like when they come into the class, you say, anyone want coffee? And
Well,
some of
that's
the
the
students
thing.
are kind of like,
Yeah.
well, I do.
Yeah.
Because you treat them like grown-ups, and so they treat you with respect as well.
Yeah. So like I could do a little younger, and because I always will treat kids like grown-ups, even if they're very young,
Yeah.
which I don't think would fly super well in like elementary school. But I think it would be cool to be that person in people's lives who kind of helps them become a real human.
You can like drive one of them to a university
Yeah.
open house or interview or
Exactly.
something like that. That would be the mentor.
hmm
I had an English teacher in grade 12 who I really, really liked and taught me a lot. And I tried to do that. Like I was writing a short story at the time.
hmm
And I was kind of like, he's encouraging me to write and stuff. So I'll ask if he wants to read this.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah. And then I gave it to him and I never heard.
Never heard back.
Yeah, so I guess it was that bad. Or
Yikes.
he stole it and published it for himself.
That's possible. It'll surface someday. Yeah, my favorite teacher was a French and yoga teacher, so that obviously is manifested in my adult life.
Froga.
Froga. Yeah. And sometimes we'd just be in French class and she'd go, let's go up to the studio. And we'd just go up and do yoga. And she'd maybe like, you are allowed to bring your homework with you,
Mm-hmm.
but like no one would do their homework. They would just all hang out on the yoga mats. But I really liked her. So I'll be a high school teacher. Your ideal Solacene outfit. So the items of clothing, like the garments,
Right.
what they're made out of, and the colors.
Well, as you know, this has been on my mind a little bit recently
I know.
because I'm infatuated with the idea of having a costume.
Yes.
I think that generally speaking, we have too many clothes,
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that Steve Jobs idea of just wearing the same thing every day and it becoming your thing.
Mhm.
Also, Doctor Who, as I already mentioned, Porco Rosso has this kind of signature jacket and vest combination, and shades, of course. And we've also been watching recently a little bit of Doctor Who, which similarly features a charismatic central character always wearing the same thing, slightly outlandish, slightly kind of this intangible sense of cool to it. But also, when I have been potentially trying to make strides in the fashion department, I've been facing a little bit of pushback recently from none other than yourself. So,
Do you want me to explain myself?
Sure.
Is that what you're alluding
Sure.
to? Basically, Aaron and I have been together for over 7 years. So I've known this man for 7 years. Close to 7 at least.
Sure.
Anyway, around 7 years. 7 long years. Okay. But for the first 6 of them, I'll say 5. Daily. And I'm not exaggerating. You would gripe to me about
Right.
how impractical, how uncomfortable, how restrictive, how stupid, in your words, crispy clothes are. So that would be blazers, dress shirts, ties, dress pants, dress shoes.
yeah.
And this was an almost daily occurrence, which drove me to the brink of insanity. But then I had to come to terms with it. I had to go on a long meditative journey in the wilderness to really
Yeah.
reconcile this, because I am a very fashion forward person. And to me, any clothes can be made comfortable
Yeah.
and be made practical. It depends on what you're doing. You're not going to wear a suit if you're going on a hike.
Sure.
But if you're writing or if you're just going about your daily business, there's really no reason not to wear a suit.
Okay. Let me defend myself in this shift, because I haven't changed that much. Here's what I still disagree with, the common sentiment around so-called crispy clothes.
Yes.
Crispy acolytes, people who love suits, especially men, will often, one, tie the wearing of suits and perhaps the ownership of them to one's masculinity,
Yes.
which I don't like, and two, make the, I would say, objectively false claim that a good suit is as comfortable as anything.
Yes.
That is not true.
It isn't true.
Nothing is as comfortable as, one, wearing nothing, but secondary, if you're wearing clothes, sweatpants, t-shirt, like however well fitted and high quality the suit is, it is not as comfortable as those. Like that's the truth. But the reason I've come around to it is, I'll admit, a sense of contrarianism with the work from home general migration towards athleisure.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I would say, I like the idea of deliberately wearing things that are uncomfortable. I think that the sense of structure that it gives you,
I agree.
It puts you in that headspace, right?
Yeah,
You're saying, I'm not wearing something comfortable right now, which means like you're not gonna, if you're wearing a suit, you're less likely to lounge around. You're more likely to want to do something.
Yeah, I intentionally, in high school, throwing it back to high school again, was when leggings really kicked off.
Yes.
The leggings movement.
Well, they're comfortable.
And I insisted on wearing jeans every day. And
Yeah.
people were like, you wear jeans every day? And I'm like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because of that. It wasn't to be contrarian, but it was just like, I'm going to school to sit in a desk and to be focused. If I'm wearing soft clothes, I'm going to slouch down and be like a potato. But
Right.
if you're wearing something structured, it makes you structured mentally.
It's the same reason you might want to go to the library to read rather than stay home.
Mm-hmm. So it's taking a while for me to adapt to your newfound desire to dress
Sure.
crispy. And I think it's going to look incredible on you,
Oh, thanks.
as it does,
Thank you.
because you have a nice shape.
Okay, we're getting a little bit too tired. But I'll say, to answer the question from the bottom up, shoes that are just like soft.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I have the shoes on my phone. They're
Yeah.
brown, leather, but I want them to be shaped like feet. What a radical idea. Going up from there, wool trousers, similarly brown, because similar to what you're wearing. One of my few fashion tenets is to try and wear as few colors as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as I said before, I think I don't want to look like a jigsaw puzzle, is what I said.
Yeah.
So I don't really like color blocking like that.
So you like monochrome outfits.
Yes. Brown clothes and a blazer.
Blazer.
Yeah, let me put it like that.
Hmm.
And then a shirt underneath.
Just like a cotton linen shirt.
I'm not much into material, so
Mm.
no polyester.
No polyester. Well, that's what I was alluding to, is that you will have no polyester, I assume, no microplastics.
No. Everything buttons no zips.
Yes.
I'm not a big fan of zippers. And the general silhouette, I will say, try and make me look as short and wide as possible. A la
Porcarosa. Okay. Excellent.
So my question for you, kind of similar, except the opposite. Describe an anti-Alicia outfit. The anti-Alicia.
Okay, the first thing that comes to mind is those gray sweatpants. So like those ones that you'd see in like an 80s, like the Rocky movies. I
Yes.
really hate those sweatsuits.
Okay.
I went through an era of trying to wear those when I ran because I'm a very cold person.
True.
So I was like, it'd be kind of funny if I just wore this. But then I was like, I feel like no matter how well you take care of a pair of gray sweatpants, they will have stains on them, like ketchup stains, even if you don't eat ketchup. Like, they just give me those vibes.
Peeling.
I also really don't like those white undershirts. These are all men's clothes. I guess that's why it's so anti-Alicia, like,
No, it has to
traditionally.
be women's clothes.
Yeah, okay.
What about leopard print?
I have a leopard print scarf,
Okay.
so I'm like, maybe that isn't fully anti-Alicia.
What about go-go boots?
Cocoa
Or moon
boots.
boots?
Uggs. Okay, we'll start from the bottom up.
Okay.
I really don't like Uggs. Never liked them. I know they've had a resurgence. No, thank you. Cause like they get wet. Doesn't make any like they're the most impractical.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're Uggs, printed leggings. So you know you can get them. They have cats on them. They have
Okay.
maybe the Milky Way galaxy.
So, like you see 12-year-olds wearing.
Yeah.
Okay. You're saying grown-ups shouldn't.
I don't think.
Okay.
So those type of leggings, and then maybe like a jean skirt on top. That's very un-Alicia, especially if it has buttons, those metal buttons.
Yeah,
I don't like
yes.
those on jean skirts. So I'll do that. And then for the top,
I feel like there's something very revealing.
yeah. Okay, one of those shirts, like a dress shirt, but like tied in the front. And it has to be like hot pink.
Okay.
So
yeah.
that
You
would
don't really
be-
wear colours very much.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Well, it's partially, well, I don't want to get into my whole design philosophy,
Sure.
but I don't like dyes too much unless they're natural.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, that'd be it. And then maybe some kind of a hat, even.
Oh yeah.
So I only wear winter hats. I don't wear summer
Think
hats.
of a fedora.
Fedora. Okay.
Or just a baseball cap. You don't really wear those very often.
No, I don't. They do suit me, though, so maybe it's not fully anti-Alicia.
Okay.
But anyway, some kind of a hat piece. And my hair would be done. So my hair is never done. So it'd be like curled or something,
Yeah.
like creepy like that.
That's
It'd be creepy
offensive.
on me.
That's offensive segment of an episode we've ever done.
Yeah. People are like looking at their closets.
Yeah.
That's just for me. Doesn't suit me. I do universally think that the leggings printed.
Okay, let's move on.
Why did you start the Solacene?
You mean why did we start this Solacene?
No, why did you start it? Like, what was your motivation? I guess we can make it a conversation then about we.
Okay.
So,
Well, I feel like to an extent my motivation has changed a little bit, which I was realizing a little bit in the last couple of weeks, in that it used to have near political, I think, intentions or aspirations, as in not like a key political, not like a CNN or something like that, but in that I used to think the highest goal would be to change people's political opinions or energize them, or at least make them rethink certain things. But now I would say it is a little bit more of an artistic respite, I think. It's like a healthy escape in the same way that people say modern cinema is great because we all need a respite from 2023, or like that's why the internet is good. And I think to an extent those things are healthy escapes, to an extent. But I feel like Solacene, you can almost listen to it infinitely and it will only do good things for you. That's
yeah, it's
kind
not
of
going
my
to like
thing,
rot your brain.
Yeah.
Or you're never going to walk
Well,
away
maybe
and
this
be like,
episode will, but
This-
generally speaking, I think it's only good even if you wildly disagree with us.
yeah. So at
Um,
least just giving you something to disagree with.
So yeah, but in terms of why I started it, or why I started it, it was just like we don't have any resources per se, save our voices, but here's an idea for what our ideal world could look like. I feel like there's a lot of moving and shaking, arguing and fighting indeed over potential methods of improving the world incrementally, or one's specific slice of society. But maybe not a lot of people have considered what the actual point B is that we should be striving for. So that's kind of what this podcast does, is present the point B from our perspective.
Yeah, it was highly inspired by a protest that we went to against fossil fuels, but it was this really disjointed climate protest where it was like some people were like net zero by 2030 and some people were saying ban plastic bags, and it was very disparate. Like there wasn't, had they marched, there were probably 1,000 people.
Oh yeah, more than that.
And it was like, had they marched and just said, we want you to change this one law, like be really specific. So the thing with the Solacene is kind of something that I imagine in 5-10 years, people could just have like signs that basically said, we want the Solacene.
Well, that's why, I like using it as a verb.
Yeah.
Or like sometimes even in our own lives, I'll kind of admonish you or vice versa, and I'll say, well, that's not Solacene.
Yeah.
Because it's also an ideal to try and live to. And what I'll say is, I think most people, regardless of political inclinations, feel a lot of these things, but they're just not verbalized either because they think it's too obvious or because they think maybe it's too niche.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And it is very, I also used to think it would be highly political in like, this is going to be a super left-wing thing. I think it would appeal to almost everyone, but perhaps it can bring attention to the issues that maybe come with a lot of, like we'll talk a lot about slow living or like rural living even.
Yeah, these things that are borderline individual. We kind of bridge the individual with the
communal.
Social,
yeah.
Communal.
And it kind of, someone would be interested in those things, but then they could get sucked down a bad rabbit hole of like this right wing living in the jungle, not the jungle, living in the forest and hating everyone and being very misanthropic. But the Solacene is like, you can be slow and intentional and hands-on without being hateful. And yeah, there's a lot of reasons to start the Solacene. Even like, we both really care about mental health. It's not something we ever talk about explicitly on the podcast. But it's pretty implicit in the idea. Because I think if you listen to the news or if you listen to a lot of climate things, like it can be very disparaging. Even me who tries to stay on top of it, sometimes I just it'll ruin my whole day. But with this, we talk about it kind of an anti-facts matter. It's like, in the Solacene, there won't be 3,000 tons of carbon dumped into the atmosphere every hour. And it's just kind of like funny. It has like that comedic edge to inform, but not depress.
I tried to kind of vary the questions, so it's not everything's what. I tried to start some of them with when, where. Yeah. Similar actually to the difficulty we face when we're naming the episodes, because most Solacene episodes are titled with a question. Yeah. But I always try and shake it up to not just what, like every week. But sometimes that leads to me phrasing it rather awkwardly. Yes. So I'll say, when is your earliest memory?
Earliest memory? That's kind of hard.
Mine is this time I was wronged in school. It was a very young grade, I'm not sure when, but the teacher told us to go from this side of the classroom to another because we're doing this activity, and we were all kind of sitting down when she told us this, sitting down crisscross applesauce, as some might say. Yeah. And she specifically said, don't run. And I started just like half crawling, I wasn't that young, but like kind of kneeing my way over. My hands weren't involved, I was just like using my knees to propel myself, not quickly or irresponsibly, I was just doing that. But this other kid came running and shoved me in my face, and I went flying into like a table or like the corner of a wall or something, and I had to go to the dentist. And I got in trouble, I remember, because the teacher was like admonishing me, saying, I told you not to run. So I always remember that chip on my shoulder and
chip on your tooth. Yeah. I have a lot of very early memories. I specifically remember going to a babysitter's that I'd go to probably once a week or something, and there being like a really cool, it's almost like in a kid's cartoon when like it's a baby having like a vision. So it's like, I remember walking in, it was like everything was dark in my child vision. I was probably like 2. But then it was like this one toy would like basically glow and like draw me in. And every time I'd go there, I'd be so excited to use this toy because it was just like one of those ones you'd push and it had like lights and stuff on it. I mean, what 2-year-old babies liked in 2001. So I remember like playing with it, but then sometimes I'd come and there'd be like other kids playing with it already, and I would be a little sad. But then I remember the very last time I went to this babysitter, and I was like, hey, we're like, this is the last time you're going here, say bye. And I remember being like really focused on the woman, but like out of my peripheral, just like staring at the toy. And this is like, I was so young, like I don't know why I remember this, but it was always with me. And I also remember driving there, like driving from my house, and it was one of the first things I recognized. Because you know, as a baby, like everything just blurs together. You don't know places.
Yes.
But it was like, I would be like, which house is hers? Her name was Vera. And I would know which house was Vera's, because I was habitually going there.
It's a name you don't hear very often these days.
No.
I'm impressed with the clarity of your early memories.
Yeah, because I have a few other ones, but they're all, this I think is my oldest.
Sure.
So that's why we'll go with it. It doesn't reveal too much about me, but maybe my
Well,
materialist
that's what you think.
inclination towards lights and plastic
Shiny
hunks.
things.
Yeah. My next one, how do you put the Solacene vision into action in your daily life, and how can you improve?
I try to be a patron of things like cinemas,
Mhm.
libraries, gyms. I think those things are those kind of public places that have largely been kind of exchanged for home, work from home, internet, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I think those are the keys to the solar scene. I try to talk to people, to be honest. You may not believe it, but like when I'm
No, I believe
when
it.
I'm around people, I do try and be like friendly. I do try to connect with people.
Yeah.
My patience for that doesn't last very long, or my energy, should I say, doesn't last very long, but I do try. And in terms of ways of improving, being more local. I always try to buy less, let's say, clothes,
Mm-hmm.
but fewer and better in the solar scene perspective.
Mhm.
So let's say that.
Yeah, that's one thing that I was thinking a bit about improving
Food
as
even.
well. Yeah. Local shopping. It was almost easier in Halifax because we were so familiar with the local industries. Like, we just kind of knew
Yes.
what came from there, but
Well, maybe
then
let's
here
say
it's a bit
solar scene-
less.
solar scene thing would be getting very good at French since we live in Montreal.
That would be
Yeah.
excellent, yes.
My next question for you is, describe your solar scene night out.
Oh, my.
You're always out in the town.
Oh, yes. Always home by 4:30 in time for supper.
Time for kitchen nightmares.
Yeah. So my Solacene night out would be go to like a boardroom cafe around 6. I think I need to eat at home. I've kind of learned that whenever I go out, because I can't eat gluten or dairy, it becomes stressful.
Yeah.
And I just end up, it kind of ruins the vibe. So I would like to eat dinner at home and then go out to like a boardroom cafe.
What dinner?
At home. Ooh. Some kind of like a hearty soup.
Okay.
I'm thinking like you made soup this week and I really liked it.
Okay.
So probably just like soup and bread, ideally, like some kind of fresh gluten-free bread would be ideal. So that, and then go out to a boardroom cafe with some pals, maybe like 4 other people. So perhaps it could be you and I, another couple,
Oh,
and then like a single.
no, a fifth wheel.
Well, that's the 5th wheel makes it a little bit anyway.
Okay.
So just a group of people, but not too big.
Not a group, so not a big group. Less
No.
than 7, let's say.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
I think 4 people is where my brain kind of shuts off. Then I'm too concerned about who's being excluded and so on. But with 4, it's just like no one's going to be excluded. Go to a boardroom cafe from like 6 till 8. Play a bunch of games. Drink some root beer or some kind of like something sugary, some kombucha,
Something crazy, but obviously not alcoholic.
of course.
So we're going to get some fizzies.
Yeah, eat some
What kind of
candy.
games are we playing? Rowdy ones? Grown-up ones?
I think like there'd be a Cards Against Humanity round or 2. But then there'd also be like one that we all got really into, like intense strategic
Yes.
game. And
Like
then
the train game.
yes, exactly. So there'd be like some conflict, but then there'd be some just good times with like something fun and frivolous.
And something where we get to team up and win. 'Cause
Yeah, we
would
have
obviously
to.
win, yeah.
A round of charades, perhaps, where we can just look in each other's eyes and like use our pupil movements to spell out words would be what we'd get really good at. So we'd do that. And then we would go to the grocery store and get
8 p.m.
more snackages,
Okay.
and then pack a bunch of snacks, and then go. I mean, we're in Montreal, so we can't go to the beach, but ideally the beach. But
This is a Solacene night out. It could be anywhere.
okay, so go to the beach and have a bonfire and just have a bunch of snacks, do some music, do some
Ooh.
like singing,
You
do
bringing
some.
out your ukulele?
I'd bring out the ukulele,
Okay.
have a bonfire. We don't need to be roasting anything. I just like the warmth. Maybe go for a night swim. Definitely go for a night swim,
Okay.
and then just like hang out on the beach until like midnight.
Whoa.
Have just no real to do there. It's just like we're gonna be at the beach for 3 hours, and then go home and have a really good night's sleep.
Zooey, man.
I know it's really like simple, but that is my favorite thing. There has to be a bonfire involved. There has to be a lot of snacks involved, but I don't like big meals. And ideally something in nature like a beach, or it could be a small hike. Would you rather video games in the Solacene incorporate 40% more VR and AI,
Oh.
or have no video games in the Solacene?
No video games.
Really?
Yeah, because I think, I do respect them as an art form, but the world is 100% fine without them, so
hmm
no video games. And I just think, well, 40% is not that. You mean 40% more than the current?
Yes.
Yeah, no video games.
Okay.
Sure.
I was thinking,
Do arcades? We still get arcades.
well, that's the thing. In Solacene, there'll be tech rooms and
Yeah.
arcades and stuff. So I was kind of thinking you might answer the former.
Oh,
If it was isolated
because
to
it's
just
less
those
in the
areas.
homes.
Yeah.
So it's more of an experience. You go there, put the helmet on.
Yeah. But then I was like, maybe you
Yeah.
think it's not, it's still bad for society.
To be honest, I don't know much about VR, like health effects.
Mental health effects.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So I'll lean on the side of caution and say
No.
no, but I'd be happy to be proven wrong. What I don't like about the idea of VR is, it in the living room.
I agree with that. And it's also, I feel very 50-50 on this because I don't know how addictive it is.
Yeah,
Like, you always
okay.
pictured, like, casinos. When I picture, in the Solacene, we imagine there'll be arcades and maybe, like, computer rooms kind of thing in the house, perhaps. But it's like, that won't necessarily stop people from being equally addicted to it,
Yeah,
if not
exactly.
more. So, yeah, perhaps leaning on the side of caution is best.
Okay. You kind of already asked me this one earlier, but why should people listen to you?
It's a little different, I suppose.
Yeah. This is more questioning your
Yeah.
credentials.
My credentials.
But really though, why?
I believe that I have an optimistic, but not toxically optimistic view of the future. I'm not like everything's going to be great. Like, I'm quite practical and aware of the anthropological impacts of climate change.
Nice.
In the next 5-10 years, like, it's going to be drastic. So the Solacene isn't going to be some kind of utopia the way that a lot of early authors perhaps envisioned it. Like, there'll be war memorials kind of thing. Like, we're going to have to remember those.
Awesome.
So I think that I am not toxically positive, but I'm also have enough knowledge to base these kind of frivolous conversations on. So it's like, we can just kind of talk in a funny way about, well, will there be cars? And it's like, perhaps if I had no knowledge and we just talked about it, it would be kind of annoying to listen to. But I think because I had a degree, but I also still try to daily increase my knowledge on community design and so on,
Yeah.
that it makes it based in knowledge so you can almost trust me. Like, if it was just a rando, perhaps with no air quotes credentials, it'd be like, well, what are they saying?
Right.
But I'm saying you can trust me. And I think I have a slightly funny and slightly fun take on things.
Wow, that is.
Hopefully my
convincing
voice
for
isn't
sure.
annoying.
I think you have a pleasant voice.
Yeah.
I really do.
So that's why. What's a knowledge-based skill you'd really like to acquire?
Another language.
Okay. And then
Besides French.
okay.
Japanese, let's say.
Okay, and then 8B, are there any hands-on Solacene skills you'll need or want that you don't currently have?
I would like to become musical. I feel like I have the music in me.
You
To
do.
an extent, especially percussion. I feel like I'd be good at that. I've always liked the idea of saxophone.
Yeah.
I can see myself prancing through a glade with
With the
handpipes.
saxophone? Oh, okay.
So I'm just saying all the different ones that
Yeah.
I had a brief very brief affair with the guitar,
Yes.
which ended in heartbreak for us both.
String break.
But in terms of something more practical, maybe fixing bikes. Let me put it like that. Because I currently, as I said, I don't ride my bike.
Yeah.
That's because it's always broken and I don't know how to fix it. I feel like if there's one kind of machine that I would get over my distaste for engineering work,
Yeah.
it would be bicycles because it would just be so useful to have.
And it'd be useful to your community as well. So like
Sure.
you can
Maybe
help
that guy.
people. Yeah. I
They
like
call me
them.
wheels
Gears.
or pedals. I feel like we should speed up a little bit for the next one, so a bit of a lightning round maybe.
Okay.
Pretend you're Gordon Ramsay critiquing a restaurant or a person's grocery / kitchen from the Solacene point of view. And this is why I said it would be good to have some slang up your...
Because how are you going to do it? Okay. So it would start with he'd pull open the utensil drawer
Yeah.
and be like, what's this shambles? Because it would just be like, if you opened ours right now, it's just, there's no organization. We throw all of our
Okay.
utensils into one drawer.
Right.
And then he would like pull out a plastic potato masher and like bend it and be like, this isn't right. This just isn't right. Yeah, and then
kill somebody.
yeah, exactly.
Shut it down.
hmm And then this isn't a Solacene thing. Let me think.
He could like have a plate and he could be like, you got your rice from here, your
Yeah,
chicken from here, your peas from here.
yeah,
And then he would say like, it's not good enough.
yeah. And then he would maybe open up like a meat drawer or something in the
Yeah.
fridge and be like, how much? Who are you trying to feed? The Queen of England? And then it would be bacon, sausage,
Sure.
ground beef.
Okay.
Who eats ground beef anymore?
Yeah.
And then one more thing, perhaps he opens up the cupboards and like the Tupperwares all fall down in a thing. He's like, I get that you're trying to be sustainable, but come on. Like you don't need this many Tupperwares.
Yeah.
So that's my
Sure. I can see him just like dismissing the interior design and saying there's not enough natural light.
Yeah.
Like kind of opening the window and saying, my word. Or something like brushing away the cobwebs.
Haven't been open in years.
Yeah.
Are there any foods you'd never give up?
Yes. What do you mean never?
Never.
Why would I?
Like say it would like in the Solacene, people didn't eat this anymore. Like but you just couldn't give it
Oh, I
up.
needed to get it luxury. Get it on black market.
Yeah.
If it was only one food,
Yeah.
then I could probably cope because I would have the rest of, let's say, the meat family
Mhm.
or the bread family.
But let's say it's like a category. It's like you can't eat grains. Like, and are there anything you couldn't give up like that?
Poultry.
Poultry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Eggs
it
are
includes
quite
eggs.
useful for baking and
Yeah.
so on. Okay.
Anything. Dropped an egg on the floor 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Fun fact. Just so you guys can learn more about me. I don't usually have butterfingers like that, but it happened. What would it take for a political party to have you crusade on the streets for them in the next Canadian federal election, which I think is this year? Don't know. I meant to research it before this episode. And it makes me sound like I live underneath a rock, which is my goal, but
Yeah. That's honestly a really good question.
I know.
They would have to be advocating. Well, they could say all these things.
Yeah.
They'd have to have proven a track record of achievement on a small scale. So say it's like the NDP and it's like they've been elected in Victoria for however many years.
A
and then
local
they've proven it at a
MP
local
or
level.
mayor.
Yeah. And perhaps they even just like, I'm going to fund this.
Oh,
like, it's-
billionaire.
Someone who's very rich is like, I'm going to kind of circumvent,
Yeah.
like if you elect me, I will put all my money into this.
You love the idea of an oligarchy and political pace of play, don't you? She does. She does.
But it's like, I can't actually say that because if someone on the side that I don't support did that,
Ooh.
I would be outraged. So
Right.
it's like, that isn't
But
actually ethical.
I think why people like the billionaire idea is it's the idea that they aren't corrupt.
Yeah.
They're not bought by other forces.
hmm
I think that's why people like
And they don't have to kind of
bend
compromise.
to the whims of their
Yeah.
lobbyists.
So, like, if this person was out here saying, we're going to reform the healthcare system and everything will be good, because
So
right
easy.
now in Canada it's not. Better than obviously a lot of places, but it's still not ideal. It's not Solacene. It'd be a healthcare. They'd have a really excellent climate plan. It'd be like the Green New Deal, but better. And those would be the two, like, easy to please. I'm like, if
Right.
you can, like, take care of the health of people and the health of the planet, like, I think for a 4-year to 8-year term, that would get me
Yeah.
out. And, like, the NDP is usually close to this, but it's like I'm not out on the streets rallying for them because, like, I know once they got elected, it would be,
You don't trust
there'd be all the bureaucracy. I trust them more than anyone,
Yeah.
but too much bureaucracy, the whole system would probably just need to be changed for me to do
So
that.
someone running on system reform, election reform perhaps, government reform.
I'm thinking more the system would have to have been reformed, and then the people who get elected actually get to do what
Yeah.
they want.
I was thinking about this question myself, and I realized I'm extremely easy to please. And the platform is almost, it's not almost secondary, but first and foremost, like, I think the bar has been lowered in politics so much, especially federal politics, which is why I asked this one.
Yeah,
And if there's anyone who you believe,
yeah,
and with a semblance of charisma,
hmm
it's enough for me to be on their side, generally speaking.
yeah,
And then if the platform was in line, let's say Solacene,
hmm
then I think I'd be on the streets.
Yeah.
You just volunteer, make a few phone calls, go door to door a little bit.
Yeah. I was going to actually do that once,
Hmm.
a couple summers ago, but then ended up getting married, so I didn't have enough free time. But yeah, like, they'd have to be fully Solacene. Like, they couldn't be like, we're gonna reform the healthcare system, we're gonna stop climate change, but we also actually are quite racist. Like, they'd have to be holistically
No car
Perfect.
subsidies.
no car subsidies. Yeah, it would have to be quite perfect, I think. The next question for you is, what's your most Solacene experience so far?
It's a hard one to answer because there's different aspects of the Solacene.
Mm-hmm.
The first one that came to mind because it's most recent is when we went to Tuscany.
Mm-hmm.
That felt just kind of ambiguously Solacene.
Yeah.
It just felt very pleasant, the air was very clean,
Mm.
and there was a sense of simplicity to the lifestyle. I might be generalizing here as an outsider, but that's just
Yeah.
how I felt. We were only there for like 2 days. But that was one of it. And then before that, obviously living on campus, that was very Solacene, and that kind of gave us the idea that, hey, it would be nice if life generally was like this.
Yeah.
In some ways. And then before that, I'll say there was this one time that I tried to dye a t-shirt
Mm.
using berries that I had picked, which is a very like un-Aaron thing to do. But I was just like, I was kind of bored and it was summer and we had all these berries and they're not really edible. So I was like, let's see if we can do it.
Yeah.
And immediately, I still have the photo of what it looked like. It was very purple. It was a white t-shirt that I never
Yeah.
wore. So I was like, that's cool. And then after one wash, it just kind of faded to a vague beige-ish pink, which still
Yeah.
was interesting, a neat color. And then I kind of scribbled all over it, wore it for a couple of years, and then I think very recently,
It now
You-
exists as a cloth in our house. Yeah.
you
That's-
snipped it into,
A very Solacene item that has,
True.
like, yeah, I use it to wipe off the yoga mat. I use it for castor oil packs.
There you go.
It has,
so that one,
still lives.
that one white t-shirt from Sears that we bought, or I bought in anticipation of that paint thing.
Yeah.
What was it?
It's
Like an Indian festival
yeah, we're
for paint.
Yeah. And I also had a part B of what Solacene experience are you looking forward to the most in your life?
Making a pilgrimage to a temple,
Perfect.
preferably in Japan.
Cool.
Has this podcast changed your mind about anything? If so, what?
Mm-hmm.
Not this episode, but the whole Solacene experience.
Yeah.
Also, is it on your resume? I just thought of it.
Yeah, it's on my resume.
Cool.
Because if you think about it, this is what I do, borderline a full-time job. So, like, it should
Sure.
be on there. So, has it changed my mind about anything?
Worrying if not.
I think the biggest thing that has changed my mind is that I can do anything. Like, that's quite baby's first lesson of you can do anything. But it does make me feel motivated to actually get out there and, like, do things that are quite uncomfortable. Like, after this, I'm going to an embroidery workshop.
Mm.
And it's like, I didn't want to
Right.
because it's like, it's going to be awkward. It's going to be in French. And it's going to be like, here's the thing. My French is greatly improving. Like, it'll be fine. But it's like, you're in your head. But then if you think about it, it's like, this is a very Solacene thing to do. Go to
Mhm.
the library for this free embroidery workshop. Learn a skill. commune with
that.
people. It motivates me to have experiences, basically, in a way that I would normally be like, well, no, I can just kind of do that on my own.
Nice.
Because I was a bit more individualistic. Yeah. My next question is, why do we make a good pair to host a show like this, and how can we both improve as hosts? So this is a big question, but like maybe just do like one thing each.
Well, for how we can both improve, for a while I was drafting notes after we record each episode. Usually either sometimes you will listen back and kind of edit out some of the ums and ahs and mouth noises.
Mm-hmm.
So I was making notes. Mainly for me, I know it's letting you finish sentences more often, because I think that can be very annoying for listeners when we are talking even briefly at the same time, or especially when it seems like I'm being like overbearing, which perhaps I am. I should have said I am. And for you, I would say, like I said, I think you have a nice voice. Maybe, I think we both do this, but you do it more. Instead of saying just a fact, we always kind of preface it with like, yeah, I was reading or like, yeah, I saw that. And I think that makes us sound, I think it puts a distance between, it's unnecessary words. I mean, as a writer, like they could all be cut and it would be more concise and I think more listenable. So I'll say that.
Yeah.
And that's why we make a good pair. I mean, they're conversations that we have been having, as you said, for 7 years and regularly still have off air all the time. So it feels rather natural. And sometimes even like we're repeating things that we said before when we do it on air.
And that's why we can cut each other off sometimes, because often I'll say things that you said to me and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's just like almost, I feel like you start something and then I'm like, well, they know that. Like the people who are listening, like they weren't here for the conversation. So like you have to let the conversation flow as if there's someone else in the room.
I think I have 2 more to ask you. You have 1 more to ask me.
Yeah.
So I'll say, where/when do you see/feel the most optimistic about society, humans, life itself? When do you feel that joie d'être? That wasn't very good.
Joie d'être. I'll say in a library or in the garden. Those are my 2 favorite places.
The garden. I was going to ask, where was your favorite place? Oh, last time I said, where's your favorite place? Because I just forgot to write that down for some reason.
My favorite place ever is just like a beach in Nova Scotia, probably.
A beach.
Yeah, I used to despise beaches. But then there was like, I feel like I just woke up one day. I don't like being cold. The water in Nova Scotia is always cold.
Always.
Like it could be the dead of summer, it could be like a 40-degree day and the water will be freezing. So like I really hated that, but then I kind of, honestly watching Call Me By Your Name where they go into that really cold stream thing, I was like, this is beautiful.
The mountain lake. Yeah.
So I started liking it. And I'm sure there's beaches in the world that I would like way more, but it's like practically there's a beach in Nova Scotia that I would probably say is my favorite.
The infamously hard to find mountain lake, should I say, from Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah, because we tried to find it.
Yeah, we were actually in Kramer trying to do the pilgrimage. And
we never talked about this on the podcast.
Just wading around in dirt.
And just like people's fields.
And, in fields. And there was at one point, we were following like a GPS/a map, paper map. And I kind of vaulted over a little ditch or trench into where it's supposed to be. And the whole place was just covered with spiderwebs. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was like Ron in the
it was a lot like
the
Ron
Forbidden Forest.
I was panicking.
I was so scared for you. Because I don't know, I feel like I was in like it was a lot.
Yeah.
I was like injured and like I couldn't go over there. I was like, you go. And then we found it and it was empty.
Yeah,
it was just like a basin of water in someone's field. I don't know who picked that. Like what location scout was like, this is it. So anyway, infamously hard to find. But yeah. Most optimistic was probably last summer when I was in the garden watering by myself. It was like, if I'm willing to just come here every day and like water this square acre of land, like other people, like the world's fine kind of thing.
Yeah.
What are you existentially afraid of, if anything?
Is this the last question?
Yeah.
What does existentially mean?
So I was going to say, what are you afraid of? Then it's like, then the answer would be like spiders, witches.
The obvious big 2.
Yeah. But are you existentially afraid of anything? Like death?
Inaction. That sounds really like hustler, influencer type, but
Sloth. That's
sloth.
a
Yeah, I
thing.
think that's is a really terrifying thing. I was reading this blog about, which maybe itself was a waste of time, but reading this blog about how, in the 90s it was very popular for people to say a cigarette takes 10 minutes off your life, which isn't exactly accurate, but it's a very helpful thing to say, because it's like you're bargaining your time basically for that addiction, for that brief pleasure. And the person was saying that they were a smoker and that had caused them to stop.
Yeah.
But then they realized recently that they would regularly spend much more than 10 minutes scrolling on social media, on YouTube, and that's really terrifying. And that's a good way of thinking about it. Like, because we watch a lot of crap, like, should I say, we watch a lot of garbage on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or a decent amount anyway. More than we should, let's say. Things like, I don't know, Jubilee videos, the aforementioned kitchen nightmares, like Ramsay, the content mill, like we're part of it.
Yeah.
We're always critiquing it on Solacene, but we do indulge this, like we do feel the same, I'm going to call it addiction. And that it takes off literal years and I worry decades from people's lives. So that, I think, is
That's
terrifying.
a good fear.
Yeah. It makes me just want to completely throw out everything technological, internet-based. So yeah, that.
Cool.
What do you have in existential fear?
Yeah, honestly, something similar, probably. Just
It's also with passivity. Like you talk about the paralysis of choice. Let's say you have an unexpected, like sometimes happens to me, you have an unexpected day off.
yeah.
Your shift was cancelled or something like that. And it's like, wow, I have, let's say, 16 hours.
Yeah.
That's so much time. But then you try and plot it out too much, or you hesitate and you're like, well, I can't do this now because first I want to do this. And there's a sequence of things. But in reality, as I kind of texted you last week, like, at least in 2023, I think action in itself is practically a virtue. Like it almost doesn't matter what you do as long as you do something, as Nike would say.
Yeah. I think for me, it would be if we wake up tomorrow and Solacene, like there's just someone knocking on the door, like here's a bunch of money you can invest towards Solacene, or like we're going to help you grow this. It would be to be unprepared for that kind of an experience. So I probably over-prepare. I'm like one of those people like hoarding up knowledge and ideas and stuff in like a bunker for the zombie apocalypse. It's like that for success. But I'm not afraid of success, but I'm afraid of like squandering it. Because you think about people who get their 10 minutes of fame, but then they really capitalize on it and change the world.
Yeah.
It's like, because that's just kind of how things work. It's like Patagonia kind of just hit a good spot, and then they grew to be as influential and as positive an impact in the world as they are. So it's like I want to be prepared for that day, but I'm existentially afraid of squandering it. Yeah.
Well said. One question left, right?
The organism of the week is
forgot.
the barred owl, and he lives in mature forests, prefers to be near water or fields. He nests in trees, cavities, but will also steal other animals' nests. They're crepuscular. Do you know what crepuscular means there?
It means active at dawn and dusk.
Yeah, I just saw a word in the wild, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
They're the most common owl in Nova Scotia. I picked him because he reminds me of us. They mate for life. They are...
Crepuscular.
They're
It's like us.
crepuscular. I'm crepuscular.
They have talons.
Weak talons. They hunt small prey, 2 to 4 eggs, and they're
That's us.
common in Nova Scotia. And they're wise. Reminds me of you. They have night vision, like you. So anyway, the barred owl,
Night vision.
43 to 55 centimeters.
Infamously bad night vision.
Do you see the drawing though? It is kind of
see.
funny.
Yeah, it looks like a thief.
Yeah.
For sure. You have a tendency of drawing birds that look like criminals.
Yeah, that's maybe I'm making a canon for
What's
this.
this?
Oh, apparently their call sounds like who cooks for you all.
Yeah, I bet it doesn't.
I bet it doesn't
Because
either.
I took a university course.
Yeah.
Roughly $900, mind you, Canadian.
Yeah.
It pays for the tuition for one course. A lot of it was about the birds of Nova Scotia, identifying their calls and their visuals. And every single bird has some phrase like that people say it sounds like. It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't help at all. It's invented.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound like that. It probably just sounds like, ooh.
Yeah, who.
But we're going to have our Organism of the Week leaderboard
Yeah.
or canon up here in between us on the YouTube. Listen to us on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I think he might be there because he looks cool and I like the writing he did around it. Final question, I believe, is something of a frivolous one, something of an ego boost for me. Describe your Solacene husband.
Oh my God.
Because I thought, you already mentioned on this episode, but we're married.
We are married. Just good information to have about us.
Yeah.
If you feel some kind of tension in the air,
It's the marital
tension. It's not anything else. My Solacene husband gets his hair cut at a hairdresser.
Oh my.
Doesn't get me to cut it.
When I said an ego boost, I thought you would just describe me as is.
So no, I was just thinking that was the only thing I would change.
Sure.
He is very neat. He's very intelligent and makes me a smarter person by being around him. He quizzes me on words like crepuscular to make sure that I know them. He is handsome and fit and funny and will make me stop crocheting to come and watch videos sometimes because I think it makes me
You make me sound so unsolicited.
sound so fun. And he's a very good cook, but he'll eat all my baked goods so that they don't go to waste. And he's very loving and always there for me. He has nice eyes. They're kind of grayish green, depending on the light. And double eyelashes. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you all for listening. Buy the zine through the link. Subscribe on the podcast apps. And we'll see you next week.